Pam's talk. If you have any question, you can feel free to type it in the chat box. We have procurement specialists here, and we are able to answer your questions right away if they can be answered in the chat room. Okay, Pam, are you here? Yeah, I see you. You're on mute though. Okay.
Yes, I was muted.
Yeah, Pam, take away.
All right. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm going to have one of our specialists, Sarah Giambra, assist me in sharing her screen so we can go over the main topic for today, which is our projections page, which is on our procurement internet site. So if you go under solicitation and contracts, you will see that we have, where is it? Under formal solicitations, you will see that we launched a new tool called solicitation projections. And this is basically a forecasting tool. It allows you to search different departments, different types of solicitations, just a variety of different criteria, so you can see what may be coming up. And then further below is the more expanded chart that allows you to see what is coming up down the road, whether it's the fall, the spring, or even in 18 months. This is information that is shared with us by the using department. So it may not always be the most current at a given time period, but as we get updates, we will go in and update these here for you. So it's a great tool to use for planning purposes. One of the things I want to cover today, in addition to this projections tool, is to really go over some of the things to consider. Planning is one of them, and I'm going to kind of talk about a couple of different things that you as a business can do. If we go further to the top of the projections page, there's two things that I want to, oh, I'm sorry, it's in a different light. So if you look at the projections page in terms of how do I use this, we give you kind of some helpful tips. So just kind of take a look at what those are. I'm sorry, my eyesight is getting very bad. So let me expand my view for my own eyes. So again, we talked about the different filtering options that you have. You can scroll to the commodity code. This is important because we issue notifications, e-notifications for our solicitations based on the commodity code. And a lot of times vendors' course of business may change. They may have added new competencies, but they may not necessarily go back to their vendor registration that they originally submitted and update their commodity codes with any new competencies. So I would strongly encourage, as part of looking at these, take a look at the commodity codes that are tied to these upcoming opportunities. Make sure if one is of interest to your firm that you are making sure that under your vendor registration, which you can update online at your convenience 24/7, that you are going in and making sure that that registration and the listing of codes tied to your business includes all the ones that you may be interested in. Sometimes you're going to have to make it a little broad because we don't have code specific just each type of item. So sometimes it's going to be a little broader, and that's okay. But at least you will be ensured to get the e-notices, even if some you want to ignore, and that's fine too. So again, just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of this new tool that has been added. If you looked at the earlier version, you would have seen it was a lot different. It was much more static. So even if you're like, yeah, I know I saw this previously, please go back to revisit, because we've updated a lot of the different things that you can do on this page. We've also identified in some of the criteria, whether it's local small business reserved, and you can jump right to that under the criteria and results. You can also look for the solicitation type. And then again, whether there are goals, etc. The new legislation of the Local Business Preference Program, you can also see whether the solicitations are tied to the LBPP applicability. So again, just a lot of different neat updates that we did to this particular tool that we wanted to make sure everyone had an opportunity to look through. So as part of this, I wanted to go over some things that I think it's important for businesses to consider. So one, and I put it in quotes, training, because it's not the traditional training that you as a staff member may do or that our employees may do, but training and planning. So what do I mean by that? In terms of training for a business, it's important to know that there are several opportunities prior to a procurement being initiated where you as a vendor can do some own homework at home or at work. And in addition, some homework you can do with the tools that the county has. So one of the quote unquote training and planning tools that I would say is the pre-submission conference. This is one where surprisingly not all businesses attend. If there is a pre-submission conference, if it's an invitation for bid, you'll see it's a pre-bid meeting. If it's a request for proposal, it'll be called a pre-submission conference. But in either case, this is an opportunity for you to learn more about the solicitation, especially if this is a new area for you or if you're new to doing business with the county or government in general. What this pre-submission or pre-bid meeting will do is you will get to meet the departmental folks that are actually responsible for this particular line of work. You will hear what it is the county is looking for from businesses in responding to the solicitation. You will have an opportunity to get any of your questions answered or clarified or at least noted down so someone can look into it and get back to all vendors who have showed an interest in this particular or a particular solicitation. The other important kind of quote unquote training tool is you hear from other businesses. You hear questions other businesses have asked or are asking that you may not have thought of or that you didn't realize may impact a response to a particular solicitation. And then finally, it gives you the opportunity to see who else may be interested. If you are a business who has a great expertise in an area of a solicitation, but you don't want to embark on the entire solicitation, it gives you an opportunity to see who else may be interested and be able to team up with them or to see if there are subcontracting opportunities. It's a great networking tool to learn from others who may have been doing it longer than you or who may have participated in the process previously. In terms of planning, the other networking piece I will highlight is our solicitations have a bidders list tied to them. And so what do I mean when I say bid holders list? Whether it's for a bid or an RFP, it identifies for you the firm. So you may not have seen them in the pre-submission or pre-bid conference. And you may say, okay, well, one or two of the businesses that showed up, they've already been working or they already have a team put together. Who else can I work with? Well, a bid holders list allows you to see all vendors who have downloaded a copy of the solicitation and identified themselves by providing us certain contact information. So if we have that, then you will see, sorry about that, then you will see that listing in the bid holders list. So that provides you an additional tool of vendors who have shown an interest that you may be able to reach out to directly, even if they were not at the pre-submission or pre-bid conference. The other kind of training and planning consideration I would share is on our website, for those that haven't looked at it in a while, we have revamped some of our tabs and consolidated some of our information to make it easier to find. So if you look under vendor resources, you will see that there is a tab, I think it's under guidance or new vendors. It's called procurement terminology. So under general guidelines, it's our first tab. For those of you who are like, well, I don't speak procurement, right? Or I speak county procurement. I've done this on the federal side, or I've done this on the state side. We alphabetize all of our procurement terminology. These are defined terms in our law. So that if you run into something and you're not sure what it means, or before a solicitation is even thought of, this allows you to do that pre-planning homework at your convenience that I talked about earlier. It allows you to understand when I say, what is a bidder's list? Or, what is a cost reimbursement contract? What do we mean by a claim? Or what is a request for proposal? So it gives you the same information that we have and that the county department has to understand that lingo before you even get to the point of where you are responding to a solicitation. So it empowers you to kind of speak, quote unquote, the same language, or at least understand what some of our acronyms mean. And the last part on the training and planning that I would share with you is the contract search. So if we go back to solicitations and contracts and we go to, I think if we scroll to the right, yep, we will see contract search. This is tied to the county's open Montgomery, excuse me, Data Montgomery website. It's updated daily. This will give you access to all current active contracts that the county has. So the contracts that we see in our log, you will see here available to you. It gives you the general contract information in terms of who the department is, who the contract administrator is, the procurement specialist, a very brief description. If it is not publicly readily releasable, you won't find the actual contract attachment, but for solicitations that are a result of bids that are publicly open, those you will see the paper clip and will be able to look at the prior version of the contract or solicitation documents. I say this because when we talked earlier about our projections tool, we talked about the information that we work with our departmental users on and information that they are able to share based on their pre-planning. So that will give you a good overview of the projections of things that are coming up, but you don't have to rely on that solely. You can use this contract search. You can search for contracts that are expiring 2 years from now, 18 months from now. You can see whether they have a renewal period remaining or not. And if they do not, while some of them may still be extended just based on the operational needs, you can get a much larger list of things that may potentially be coming up. So again, just another planning tool to use in combination with the others that we've talked about. The other consideration I think is important is to understand the purpose and the value of vendor meetings, right? So when you look at these projection tools, we don't want you to wait until the solicitation is issued. We don't want you to wait until 3-4 months before a solicitation is issued. The value of a vendor meeting is really to identify that you are out there in the market, what your vendor competencies are, how you can add value to the county or to what a county is looking for, and maybe even identify areas that the county had not considered and may not contract for currently, but maybe an opportunity down the road. So vendor meetings, you should really consider doing that at least a year before a solicitation may come out on the street, sometimes even beforehand, because it gives you an opportunity for the county to really consider things that it may not have thought about. And that's where you come in to add that value. It also allows a much broader discussion during those meetings. Generally, once a solicitation is issued or once a solicitation is drafted and about to be issued, that's generally the time frame when a department is not going to be able to discuss the specifics of a solicitation because we're actually going to be issuing it and competing it. And we want to make sure that there is not just the direct level playing field, but that the appearance of the direct level playing field is also not compromised. And so again, that's why the planning tool and the vendor meeting, making sure that occurs at least a good year prior to the solicitation being issued, allows you much more freedom in that discussion, in that vendor meeting with the department. You want to market your company. You want to provide general market information and data that's going to add value to the using department. You don't want to use the vendor meeting to seek out a contract, because the department will not have the authority to do so, regardless of what may be shared. The other caution I would say is sometimes businesses whose time is limited and resources may be limited may start with a vendor meeting, enter into much more detailed conversations with a department unknowingly, that leads to sample products or trial periods or other manners in which you are providing something at quote unquote no cost. But the caution there is a department who proceeds in that manner, or a business who proceeds in that manner, may be losing out on its products, services, or time, because in all likelihood that would have to be repeated under the umbrella of an appropriate procurement method. So you just want to make sure you're not extending yourself out there in a way that's not going to provide a return to your firm. So anytime that you're really getting more into the weeds of something, you always want to take a step back and say, is there a procurement process that's covering my participation in this evaluation, or in this product sharing, or in this trial? And if it's not, then don't feel shy to ask that question. How is this going to be contracted? What is the procurement method that you're planning to use? Because as a business, just as we say to our using departments, it protects you and it protects your time and resources that you're spending sharing this information and knowledge. Does that mean that a business cannot do market research? Absolutely not. A department can go out there as part of these vendor meetings, reach out to you, ask you for general market information, ask you for what services or goods your business provides, and all of that is okay. It's when they can even say, hey, in general, what's a ballpark for something like this? That's okay too, because just like a business needs to plan, our departments also need to plan. And some of that market research is for planning purposes. But when we get into evaluating products to decide where we want to go, that needs to happen under the umbrella of some procurement method or appropriate process. The last thing I will say in terms of things to consider as you look at our projections page is to please ask questions early. We don't mind questions. We encourage questions. When you are in the midst of a solicitation process, it's even more important that if you see something that doesn't make sense, if you see something that may be outdated, you see something that seems to be very restrictive and that concerns you, please raise those issues. We identify who the technical contact is, as well as the procurement specialist for every solicitation in our front page. So we want to make sure that you use that information to be able to reach out to us, so we can coordinate with our technical folks, see whether a clarification is needed or whether a change is needed. And if it is, then we will provide that to you via a solicitation amendment or Q&A or clarification. A lot of times, some of the information we talked about earlier in a pre-bid or pre-submission conference, the answers may not readily be available, or they may need to check with other colleagues in the county. And if that is the case, then those particular questions will also get included in a follow-up solicitation amendment. Just make sure that if you do identify opportunities through you, I want to make sure you can hear me, that if you do identify opportunities on our projections page, that you make sure you are identifying who your business is and a valid and correct email address, so that we have a record of that. That is how we notify, or that is what we use to notify businesses who are interested that a solicitation amendment opportunity has been issued, so that you can get the updates as they are issued. It may change the due date and time. It may give you more detailed information on the Q&A. It may actually revise pages of the solicitation that may impact your response or your pricing. So again, there are two methods of downloading a solicitation, and the one that allows you to identify contact information is the one that we would use to be able to provide courtesy e-notifications for any solicitation amendments or clarifications that we use. We will be issuing all of our RFPs, as well as starting to issue our bids through eBid, which is an online procurement system. So we can retrieve them from the electronic system, and you can upload and submit them through the electronic system without having to come into our offices. We will have and have had a hybrid option where you can either choose to submit it through eBid or submit it through the mail system or through the in-person system. What I would like to highlight as we go through this more online e-submissions processes is, please, similar to submitting it in person or through a mail system, just submitting it online requires the same type of planning. We cannot accept bids or proposals that are late. And even if it's a minute late, that is late. So we want to make sure that if you're submitting it online, that you give yourself enough time to not just upload your documents, but to be able to review it, to make sure any error messages you received, if you didn't upload all of the required documents, you'll get a notification. So give yourself time to go through that, especially as you're using that system for the first time. Also understand that when you do submit a bid or proposal, that the system has to go through a validation, and that validation also takes some time. So you don't want to wait until just a few minutes before a bid is due in order to make that submission. And if you do have any questions on the technical aspects of that, the help desk information is right there on the website, so that you can reach out directly to them to assist you with any of those technical questions that you may have. So the last piece I wanted to highlight is, if you see the two bullets on the screen to the left, we have provided a very 10,000 feet high level workflow process map for the most two commonly used solicitation methods, which is our invitation for bid and our RFP. Sarah, if you could just click on one of those real quick. So what you will see is how our solicitations walk through the different stages and steps of the process, where the steps are generally moving through, where there could be some hiccups, or where things may take a little longer than other steps. If there are certain reserve programs that are applicable, you will see those in the phases as well. That allows you to see kind of what happens when they do apply, what happens when they don't apply, and if there are other steps in the process to consider. So these process flow maps are here and available for you to look at, so that if you've participated, if you're not sure where something is, we do have our solicitation tracker, but you can also come and take a look and say, okay, I know that right now they're in the evaluation stages, and these are the different pieces of the evaluation, and the process map tells me now there's going to be these other phases that come after. And so it just gives you a nice one-page shot of what that entire process flow looks like. And then Sarah had briefly pulled up the solicitation tracker, which is right there on our main web page, where you can put in the solicitation information and find out the current status. So where the process workflow maps give you an overall view at a very high level of all the different pieces, this provides you with just the snapshot of the overall stages and what the status may be if we are expecting, and therefore you may be expecting, a delay in that particular solicitation. You will see yellow. If it has slipped some of the anticipated dates, you will see red. If it's canceled, like here, you will see red. Or if it is going through the process as anticipated, based on the initial estimated dates, you will see green. So again, if you're running between meetings, running between appointments, and you just want to quickly check where is this? This is the solicitation tracker is a great tool to have at your fingertips. And again, you can access it directly from our main page. There's the solicitation tracker bar that allows you to search right there. And with that, that's the pieces of things to consider that I wanted to share with you guys today, as well as the revamped projections page. So thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Grace.
Pam, there are a couple of questions from Dr. Gina Valentine in the chat box.
Okay.
If you take a look, maybe you can answer them.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, I'm going to ask everybody, all the vendors, to sign in through our chat box, put in your company name, your name, and your email address, so that we know who have participated. And also, I would like to invite the vendors who are willing to tell us a little bit about yourself, so we know who our audience are. You can only take maybe 1 or 2 minutes, please, to tell us your name, your company name, what does your company sell, and if you want, please also tell us what do you want to learn from these open house sessions. You will need to unmute yourself first. Do I have any volunteer?
I'll volunteer.
That's
okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Drina Valentine. I am the founder and CEO of Integrative Management Solutions, providing business process improvement as one of the primary services that I would be selling to the Montgomery County government agencies. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you, Pam, and the procurement office. I'm one of those in the community who have been, I wouldn't say a thorn in Grace's and Ashetty's side, but very active in seeing changes in the procurement process. So what I am seeing is absolutely awesome. So I want to thank you for that. Every tool that's coming out is great. One of the questions, and Pam, I'm not sure if you've gotten to it yet, was are there ways, for instance, that we can still influence the process? For example, the projection is awesome. One of the things that I'm not a fan about, but others may have a different thought around it, is the idea that when you are interested in an opportunity, that you have to go in and sign in and provide your information, and you go in and you find out that there's more detail to the information, and then you find out like, oh gosh, well, it really is not what I had expected it to be. Is it a way to possibly look at the projections and maybe check, be able to have a checkbox, and at that point saying, hey, IMS is interested in this, and then receive information that the opportunity is coming up. One of the other questions I had asked Grace was, is there a way? I think one of the challenges that the vendors have is that what I may have or consider as professional service or specifically under my line is not necessarily coming off as the same understanding as procurement officers. And so similar to how you have a list of definitions for the different meanings, like what is a bid and what is a bid or a submission meeting, if it's also possible, and maybe it's not, and your answer is do your own homework, Drina, but basically, is there a way where the county can start looking at what are the specific services that are falling under these what do you call commodity codes, because they're not consistent. So then what you're telling me is go register under all these commodity codes, and then 90% of them don't apply to me, and then all of a sudden I have a full inbox, and maybe 5 to 10 minutes are. So I'm just wondering if that could be one of the next things that the county considers. And I apologize, Grace, you know I talk a lot, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank
So,
you.
So I want to make sure I understood your first question, because I was gonna just answer it right away, and you had a great second question too. So I wanted to, let me just make sure I captured your questions correctly. So the first one is you're providing your contact information, and then once you do, you're looking at the solicitation and you're realizing, okay, it's not really everything I thought it would be, but now your information is already there. So you may be interested, you may be continuing to get some information or updates regarding it when it's something you're no longer interested in. Okay, so I have a couple of items to share regarding that. The first item is, and Sarah, if you're still there, do you mind pulling up the site again for the solicitations? So one of the things we did that you can access before even going into the signing in or downloading is the summary scope. So if you click on the view scope, we expanded it to 2 options. Before it was just a snippet like you see here, right? You can just see a snippet. Now there's another option that is in between the snippet and the actual downloading of the solicitations. If you click that, where it says full scope, you will see a much broader and expanded. Did it come up?
That one didn't work. Let me try. Let me try that one.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, I think
Canceled.
Oh, this is great.
so.
This
Then
is great.
if you, and that wasn't there earlier, so, and I don't recall when we added that, but now we have like an in-between option, right? Something like you're going real quick on the fly, you want to look at the quick scope, we have that available. If you're like, okay, I really want to see more before I commit, now we have that second option for
Perfect.
the full scope. And then the third option is, all right, I'm really going to go for it. And then you can download the solicitation. Even in downloading the solicitation, you will still have the option where you can initially download it and tell us nothing about you, so we don't even know you downloaded it. If you just want to be like, okay, I saw the full scope, but I just want to make sure, you can do that. And then once you look at the full solicitation, if you're like, yes, I want to commit, you can always go back and then download it under the option that allows you to put your contact information. So we have a couple different ways now as compared to a while back, that gives you that freedom to kind of select a few different options. The second question you had relates to commodity code. So with regards to commodity codes, Sarah, if you can go to the projections page. So this was not there previously, even under the initial projections page, but I believe we did add it now. So if you look at the last column, you will see that we, where we readily have it, sometimes it may not have been determined yet, but once it is, then it'll get added. But where it's already been determined, you will see 1 or more commodity codes that are going to be associated with that upcoming projection solicitation. So that's where, when you look at this, you want to look at that column and say, okay, for the one where it's commodity code 96872, I'm really interested in this. Is my vendor registration up to date that includes that code, so that I can get that e-notification? Sometimes based on the solicitations that we do, it may be more of a system, a solution. It may include multiple geographic zones, multiple different scopes. And if it does, you may see more than one commodity code. Or if there are related commodity codes and we want to make sure we've covered as many folks as possible in our outreach, then you may see a department has worked to select more than one commodity code to make sure that they get the full breadth of what may be out there. If there are duplicate vendors within those commodity codes, they get collapsed so that a business wouldn't receive, if there's 3 commodity codes, for example, a business won't receive 3 e-notifications, they'll just receive 1. So we do look for overlap in the multiple codes, but that's where you will find it, that we did start to add commodity codes to upcoming projections to make sure that you can see how the county identifies it as, so that if it's something of interest, then you know to make sure that your vendor registration includes these targeted codes, instead of just blindly selecting, some that may or may not coincide with an upcoming solicitation. So did I answer both of your questions?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
I will try to truncate that response in the chat session, so that anyone, who wants to refer back. I don't know that I'll make it as long, but I'll try to just kind of synthesize what I said and put it in there so people have.
thank you. And
Nope.
Grace, if nobody else volunteers, I do have one more question.
Yeah, let me ask first, does anybody else want to introduce themselves?
Yeah, good morning. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I am Ingrid Mejia. I represent Surf Grove in Kensington, and we do all disaster related work. Grace, to answer your question, really, I just appreciate you all taking the time and explaining the new features and, just giving us these refreshers, because it is not easy navigating the contracting world. So I just really appreciate what you all are doing now. I do have a question. My question would be, does everything that you put on the Montgomery County solicitation site, does all of it also go into eMaryland? Because for myself personally, I find it easier to be able to go to the state site, which I would hope includes everything that the state or the county has put out there for us small businesses.
So the all Maryland jurisdictions are required to post the opportunities from their jurisdictions on the new Emma site, what used to be the eMaryland Marketplace. And so, yes, if you go to Emma, I don't know that you'll see it individually listed. I forgot how we post it, but we do have our link to our solicitation opportunities on Emma. So
Pam,
yes.
let me interject there. This is Sharonda Baltimore, IT for Procurement. Right now, we're having technical difficulties with our solicitation postings on eMaryland, so I'm working with the state to fix that. So right now, we're not,
Okay.
but we're working through that, and we should have them up there shortly. But
Okay.
Pam is right. We will have our opportunities there, and they'll link to our solicitation page, as opposed to you filling it out on eMaryland's website directly. Sorry.
Right. No. Thank you, Sharonda. So, okay. So yes. So good to know. Right now, because of some technical difficulties, you won't see it. But before the technical difficulties and after, all Maryland jurisdictions are required to post their opportunities on Emma. And we do that, barring, again, technical difficulties. So when you go there, you will see the opportunities. And then you will click on that. So it brings you back to either our site or our site with BidNet for that opportunity. So yes, if you don't have to go to ours first, then Emma's, and vice versa. If you go to Emma's and you're scrolling through and you see it, you will see ours included. And then if you're interested and you click it, then it will bring you to our specific page for that solicitation.
Okay. And just, I guess, to piggyback that question, so the new projection feature that you've just introduced us to, is that something that in maybe the long run may it be added to the eMaryland Marketplace? Because I think it's a very helpful tool. Is that something that can be introduced, or
So that's something that we can definitely take that feedback. We would work with our IT and see kind of how that can work best, and if it's feasible, or if it's feasible quickly, or might be a little more of a longer term solution. We have a work plan with all of our different kind of initiatives. So we will definitely take that feedback to incorporate into like a work plan and see if it's feasible.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi there. Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. So my name is Rania Kanj. I am with Research Consulting and Contracting. We provide clinical data analysis and data management, and we also actually collaborate with a partner, and we provide virtual health and remote patient monitoring solutions. I'm actually a very recent, business and government contracting. I just started my business 2-3 months ago. So I'm new to this, and I'm trying to establish some past performance. As I hear, this is a competitive world, and I do need, solid past performance. So my question would be, if I would like to do that, would kind of looking for micro procurement a good solution for me? And if so, are those advertised, or how do I find those?
So in the county's lingo or terminology, we consider the micro purchases. We call them direct purchases, and our direct purchases are valued at 10,000 or below. These are not repetitive purchases, because if it's repetitive, then they would consolidate what their requirements are and then compete it according to what the total estimated value would be. But if it's one time, or if it's a couple of times, but it's well below the 10K and less limit, then that is delegated directly to a using department. So yes, a direct purchase is a great way to get your foot in the door, to allow a department, with little risk, to give you an opportunity to see what you can do, and for you to show how you excel in your performance and delivery of the goods or services that you can provide to the county. So that's definitely a good opportunity. And I would say, using that vendor meeting, that introduction meeting, to let them know that you're out there, that you're new, that this is your core competency. And now with the remote environment and telehealth and all of these other areas that are getting more attention, what you're providing in your business would seem to align very well with that. So there may be some opportunities out there, and not just Health and Human Services, but our corrections department provides certain medical services, a lot of which are competed, but certain medical services related to residents. I don't know if there would be an opportunity there, but I would say don't just focus on Health and Human Services, although that would likely be the largest department that aligns with what you do. But a department like Department of Corrections, they may also have a component, might be another avenue. And in that vendor meeting, it gives you an opportunity to let them know who you are, to see you face to face or virtually face to face, allows them to kind of share what their world is looking like and how it's changing. And I found in several instances where a vendor has met with a department in the past, and then nothing was there at that time. But then down the road, something happens, and they're like, oh, yeah, I remember we met with this vendor. Let me see if they're available. And so sometimes it's a hit or miss. You might not get it right off the bat, but definitely the vendor meeting and the direct purchase threshold would be great tools. The other tool that I mentioned earlier is the pre-bid or pre-submission conference. Health and Human Services issues a lot of solicitation that have a lot of different service components built in. So I wouldn't shy away from those. I would look to see what those are and see if there's a component that your business can provide, even if it's not the full scope. But is there a component that your business can provide? And use those pre-submission conferences and bidders lists to do outreach and marketing from B2B, from business to business. And again, we can't guarantee, we don't know who's going to get the contract. So you might reach out to 5 firms, 3 may get back to you, but they may not be ones who win the contract, and that's okay. And it may be that you've aligned yourself with a business who doesn't get that opportunity, but maybe they respond to others and you may get a different opportunity, but you've made that connection. So I would definitely use that as an additional tool to get your foot in the door. And we have had several new businesses that have started in that way and then have built themselves up to respond to direct solicitations themselves and have gotten awards. So it's definitely doable. We average around 29 to 30, maybe it's a little more % each fiscal year for brand new contracts going to new vendors that have not done business with the county before. And so this is not 30% that includes last year's. No, this is 30% more in addition to the 30% that went to first-time vendors the year before, the fiscal year before. And, you know, sometimes people are hesitant because they see that it's come around before, and hey, you know, there's an incumbent that's been in place. But don't let that discourage you, because just as some departments may feel comfortable or may have had a good performing vendor under an existing contract, there are some departments who are looking for new blood. And
Right.
so, you know, don't be discouraged. You know, don't just think that, you know, there's an incumbent and therefore I'm not going to try, because like I said, around 30+%, you know, and it changes fiscal year to fiscal year, are going to brand new vendors that have not done business with the county in, I think, the prior 7 or plus years. So, so it's a pretty good grouping to be in. And we are always looking for competition. So I would just encourage you to utilize those original tools, right? Smaller footsteps, but don't shy away from those larger ones, especially if you can participate as a component within those. That's just another avenue to get your foot in the door with other businesses who can then expand your opportunities.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And just as a tiny follow-up, so HHS does have regular vendor meetings scheduled.
So when you say vendor, so the vendor marketing is something that you would want to market yourself to the department. So if you look at our contract search and you search for health and human services, telehealth, whatever your competency areas are, it will pull up any existing contract that we have. It will tell you who the contract administrator is, their email, their phone number. So that's publicly available to you. And then just based on your area and the departments that would best align, we provide that information to you publicly, so then you can go and directly market to those departments or to those contract administrators.
Just contact them directly, email
Yeah.
them, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
And also look out for like the county calendar and notices, because sometimes departments like Health and Human Services or others will engage in broader discussion meetings with the business community. And so that's just a different avenue to, it's not going to be a one-on-one vendor meeting, but just to even hear kind of what's being anticipated or different programs that are being discussed or what may be coming down from the state. So that's just another way to just to get more information ahead of time.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Pam. Just wanted to piggyback on what Pam said. For all the new vendors that you are new in this area or you haven't done business with Montgomery County, make sure you register with us first. And like Sarah is showing, go to the vendor resources page, and we have our vendor registration portal. We have our certification portal. We have, this is the central vendor registration system. You will be registering not only with us, but also with Montgomery County Public School, Montgomery College, House Opportunity Commission, This is Rockville City. So all of us will be looking at this vendor registration system. And also, if you are a minority-owned business, make sure you start your process to get your minority certification with MDOT, for example. So when you get your certification, the county and some other agencies all have these minority-owned business or local small business preference programs that you can benefit from. And then one more thing is the next tier after the direct purchase threshold is the informal solicitations, and that is being competed, and it's between 10,000 and 100,000. And right now, we have made it, all the informal solicitations are required to be reserved under the local small business reserve program. This is a temporary measure that we want to boost our local economy, especially after the COVID-19 situation. So for the smaller purchases, direct purchase plus all these informals that are up to $100,000, we are trying to reserve them for local small businesses. Okay, so do I have other vendors who want to talk about themselves? I see Janine.
Hi, yes, I'd like to
Yes.
say hello to everyone. Hi, my name is Janine McGregor and I'm with JDM Consulting. And I want to say that, like most of you new vendors, I've been in that place, and I want to just take this opportunity to say, don't give up. Just as Pam had reiterated, just start out with trying to identify direct opportunities and let the client get a chance to know you. And once that happens, you'll be surprised how doors are open up. Just to give you a little bit of background of what we do, we are an accounting / general risk and control consulting firm, and we do a lot of internal auditing, compliance related work. We've done work with Montgomery County, specifically with Grace Department in the area of the prevailing wage law. And what we've done is that we've gone out and verified whether or not the contractors that are contracted with Montgomery County are paying the employees under the contract their living wage. So it's been a pleasure working with this group. And I just want to tell everyone out here on the call that just continue with your efforts and you will succeed. That's it.
Thank you, Janine.
Okay.
Anybody else? Oh, by the way, sorry, since Janine mentioned the living wage or wage requirements law, we do have this law in place for all our services contracts. And every July 1st, we increase the living wage rate. So currently, after the July 1st change, the current wage rate is $15.40 per hour for our services contractors, employees. So whoever that are working on our contracts, on services contracts, they need to pay be paid at least $15.40 per hour. And Janine is one of our contractors to go out, audit them, make sure that they are paid this rate. Any other volunteers to introduce themselves? Okay, go ahead.
Also, hi, my name is Ines. I'm with Tina Oliver. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but we're new to the area and we do ADA transition plans, ADA assessments. We do that for like public offices, City Hall, their offices, and sometimes parks, sidewalks. So yeah, that's what we do. I wanted to introduce us.
Thank you. And we do have I believe we do have a series of ADA compliance contractors. They are probably, right now we have active contracts with them, but Sarah is showing you can search on this contract, maybe just typing ADA. Then you'll see there who are the incumbent and when the contracts are going to expire. And then you want to prepare yourself to be in that market, get yourself registered, get your certification already, Usually, if you see the expiration date is coming up maybe a year after, that's probably it's about the time that you start looking at the last solicitation, who you want to talk to. Even year and a half before that, I would start early to look at the requirements of our ADA contracts to get yourself ready to compete when the solicitation come out.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Can you send me the link to that, please?
Yeah.
I was looking at the parks website and looking to see if they have a transition plan already. But thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, just so you know that the Montgomery County parks and public school and Montgomery College, they all have their own separate procurement office. So we don't do their contracts, although we have connections with them. If you need reference, we can give you contact information, but they do their own procurement. So you won't see their contracts on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so actually we are coming to very close to the end of the session. Do I have anybody who has a burning question that you have to ask and get answer right now? Okay, Pam, do you want to say something? No, okay.
Sure. Well, I just want to say I am, as promised earlier, the 2 earlier questions that were asked in the chat that I answered, I'm just in the process of just doing a recap for those so that people will have.
Okay. So Drina, earlier you said you have one more question. Do you still have that?
Oh, it's not burning enough to keep folks on the line. Thank you, though. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Pam, for your very detailed session today. So next, we have these open houses every month on the 3rd Wednesday at 10 a.m. And every time we'll try to give you a different topic. And we are going to try this year to focus more on the new vendors and small vendors, local small minority-owned vendors, so that we try to, again, revive our local economy after this whole COVID-19 situation. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Sarah, for your navigation.
You're welcome.
Yeah.